Hello, I'm here today to put forth the idea that Andrew Traeger's assertion that vitamin supplements are unnecessary for the average American are insufficient and supported by the argument. Andrew put forth three secondary claims to support his main claim. He stated first that Americans' dietary needs are met largely through their diet. Ingesting too many vitamins can be dangerous, and that vitamins represent an unnecessary financial burden. So for his first claim, Andrew stated that Americans' vitamin needs are met through their diet, and to back this up, he put out a survey from the Center for Disease Control saying we're sufficiently nourished in essential vitamins, and that since processed foods are fortified with vitamins, vitamin supplements should be largely unnecessary. So going to his study from the CDC actually comes out and says that we do not know whether these vitamins that we are sufficiently nourished in are coming from their diet or from supplements. They're saying that we might be 100% supplied with our vitamins just because we're taking the necessary supplements. And secondly, fortified foods represent a fair amount of vitamin intake for young people. That's because a lot of fortified foods are food intake such as wheats, cereals, milks, things like that. However, on average, Americans do not take in enough milk, wheat, cereal, things of this nature. We eat lots of processed food like TV dinners, hot dogs, processed meats like hot dogs, hamburgers, etc. So we do not actually intake enough of foods in categories that are actually processed. Secondly, Andrew put forth that a multivitamin could be dangerous if consumed in an excessive amount. Well, this is true, but anything can be dangerous if you take in a huge amount of it. You can poison yourself with water. And he gave us an example of how vitamins can be dangerous by giving us an example of a polar bear liver, and saying that the Inuit for a long time have known to avoid polar bear liver because this can kill you. Well, this is actually true. Eating a polar bear liver can in fact kill you. However, to replicate eating 3 pounds of polar bear liver, you would need to take in about 1,500 tablets of vitamin. No one is going to realistically be ingesting 1,500 tablets of vitamin if they're trying to keep themselves healthy. Following on to this, to overdose yourself on vitamins, you would need to be taking on average about 30 tablets a day for several months before serious vitamin overdose problems would start to manifest themselves. In addition, he brought up a survey that said that in fact consuming multivitamins increased mortality in the people that did take the vitamins. However, this was a difference on the order of 1%. It was 41% of mortality for those taking a multivitamin and 40% for those not. In addition, if you go back and read the original researcher's paper, the researcher does say that this study could have had confounding effects such as underlying conditions by those taking multivitamins. In other words, you're more likely to take a multivitamin if you have a problem. And that it did not establish at any point that a vitamin might cause you some sort of harm. It really did not. Finally, Andrew put forth that a multivitamin is an unnecessary expense, and then gave us some facts and figures that a multivitamin costs about $165 a year, or thereabouts. But how much a product costs has nothing to do with whether it's necessary for your health or not. So there is actually no evidence to back up Andrew's claim on this issue. So in sum, I don't necessarily disagree with Andrew's claim that a vitamin supplement is unnecessary, but I do not think that he adequately established that in his argument. Thank you.
Yeah, I forgot we had doubled up on some of these because we ran short of some outlines. So it's interesting that we had kind of two different approaches to this. It's a nice contrast and shows that you can actually respond different ways to the argument. I thought the structure was fine. Your first point was pretty good. There's a challenge to the CDC and basically what it's actually saying in its argument. And I'll tell you what, it sounds like you're paraphrasing the CDC there as opposed to quoting it directly. And you always want to quote directly, especially when the argument's going to what the actual information is here. On the argument about fortified foods and that we don't get enough of the milks and cereals and wheats that we need, that's all asserted on your part, and I think it was one of those things where I needed some data to back it up. I'm not saying that it's not true, but you're saying it is true, and you're not giving me any evidence to support that particular point. I think this is kind of a little more the approach that I talked about before, arguing that there are some places in which we are deficient despite the availability of fortified foods. I think that you have an interesting idea here, but it's a little underdeveloped. On the second point, on the issue of the dangers, I think that you respond more directly here to the advocate's evidence on the polar bear liver than we heard in the other speech, so I thought that was interesting, and it probably also goes more to refuting the advocate's point instead of simply presenting a rebuttal claim. Then you had an argument about 1,500 tablets over the course of several months, or 30 tablets a day. I do need to know how you came up with those numbers. They don't seem unreasonable, but again, it's one of those places where you're giving me a conclusion. I did see that you used a caveat from the research that the advocate was talking about, which simply suggested that the reason that there might have been a variation is that people might have been choosing the vitamins in the first place because they had some particular problem. I thought that was a good explanation of what that difference was. And the last point, it's mostly dismissed as not being relevant, and I think that that's a reasonable point to make on that point. All right.